Welcome to Justice For, a true crime podcast hosted by two besties from Colorado, focused on bringing justice to victims by telling their stories. New episodes release every Tuesday on all major podcast platforms and YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube so you'll never miss an episode.
Trigger warning, this is a true crime podcast that does contain adult language, adult themes, and some content may be disturbing for some viewers. So please watch and listen with discretion. Have you ever had a dream where you're stuck somewhere, whether it be in a room or a car or even a chair or couch? You can't move, you can't talk, and no one is there to help you. You finally wake up and you feel relief as you're able to move and speak and do anything so you aren't feeling that way again. What if it wasn't a dream? What if you were stuck in one spot for the rest of your life? Unfortunately, this is the reality for someone. Welcome back to another episode of Justice For. We are your hosts.
I'm Jackie.
And I'm Sam.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
I am already terrified for this episode.
You're welcome.
Really quick though, before we start.
Yes.
I would like to just add a little extra warning.
Yeah.
If you're eating, please finish eating before you continue in this podcast. Also, if you're in a room with other people, I would suggest putting an AirPod in or something because this isn't one to just blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little warning.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to tell you about the deeply tragic and unsettling case that highlights the devastating consequences of extreme neglect. This is the story of Lacey Fletcher, a case that shocked the community and left an indelible mark on all who has learned about it.
Lacey Ellen Fletcher was a 36-year-old woman from Slaughter, Louisiana, which, other than having a super cool name, is a small town of like 1,000 people.
It's a little unfortunate of a name.
It is a little unfortunate of a name, but like, that's a really cool town name.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I like weird names.
All right.
I mean, it'd be fun in October. Slaughter, Louisiana is a super small town of like 1,000 people, like I said, and it's known for its quiet streets and tight-knit community. Mm-hmm. The Fletchers lived in a modest home on Tom Drive. Lacey was the only child of Clay and Sheila Fletcher, who were well-known and seemingly respected members of the community and local church. They were often described as pillars of their community. Sheila worked as a police and court clerk in Baker, Louisiana, which was just the next town over. And she was also an assistant to the city prosecutor in Zachary, Louisiana, which was another town over. And these are pretty small towns, so they all are like 10 to 15 minutes to get to each other. So it's not like she worked crazy far away or was like driving into a city. Mm-hmm. She was also on a town board up until 2022, serving as sort of a secondary mayor. She wasn't, it's weird. It's like an assistant mayor, but like a backup mayor. I don't know.
It's like a designated survivor situation.
Basically.
But for mayors.
Yeah. And Clay was an officer at a nonprofit Civil War roundtable, and that's all we have for him.
Yeah.
He likes Civil War reenactment, and that's all we got.
Good for him.
I mean, I guess.
We literally couldn't find anything.
No.
She found more than I did.
Yeah, she goes, I can't find anything on him. And I was like, oh, I remember hearing one blurb.
But the thing is, though, like, even other podcasts and stuff, they can't find anything either. So
I listened to the one podcast she didn't that had something on it.
Yeah.
To understand why this is such a tragedy, we need to go back to her early years. Lacey was described by those who knew her as a sweet and quiet child. In school, she was shy but friendly, and she was active in sports, playing on the volleyball team and participating in other school activities. However, as she grew older, things began to change. While all of Lacey's friends were getting interested in boys and makeup and going to the movies, you know, teen girl things, Lacey was still very much into Disney movies and playing with dolls, singing karaoke at home, and dancing around her room. So naturally, near the end of 9th grade, Lacey started to have some social problems and was getting bullied at school.
Were you not supposed to sing and dance around your room?
Yeah, I don't know when that stopped because, like, I'm pretty sure Lizzie McGuire was doing that before her high school graduation, so...
I'm sorry, you don't still do that now?
That's what I'm saying. I
mean, I still do it all the time.
You should see me trying to do my makeup and hair in the morning. It's like a whole ass concert up in there.
Same.
Yeah.
But high school girls are...
rude.
Yeah, and too cool for everything.
Dude, I as an adult, don't ever want to be around a group of high school girls.
Well, that time's coming back around for you soon.
At least I'm the cool aunt.
You are a cool aunt. So, eventually, without telling anyone, Lacey's parents decided to pull her out of school and began homeschooling her. According to family members, Lacey was diagnosed with social anxiety and had a history of severe Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism spectrum disorder which leaves people with maladjusted social skills, and she also reportedly suffered from locked-in syndrome, a rare neurological disorder characterized by complete paralysis of voluntary muscles, except for the eyes. We are going to talk more on that at the end of this and what that means in all of this, but just go ahead and hold that over here for right now.
Right up in your noggin.
But rather than seek help and support for their daughter, Clay and Sheila made the decision to isolate Lacey from the outside world entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to note real quick that Lacey's medical records are kind of bare. And that could be because all the records that they were trying to pull from when she was a minor. So there is one recorded instance that came out that Clay and Sheila going to the doctor about Lacey in 2010. The thing is, though, they didn't actually take Lacey with them. They just went and asked them about their concerns for her, that she had become a homebody and they couldn't get her to leave the house. So it's really hard to know what medical conditions Lacey exactly had because they never took her to a doctor. But we do know the Asperger's diagnosis
and the social part of it.
And
The
and the social part of it, autism,
Mhm.
those are actually confirmed and were brought out by prosecution and stuff.
Yep. So when Lacey was 24 years old, according to her parents, she had a serious decline in her health that led to her not being able to leave the house at all. But it wasn't the house that Lacey didn't want to leave. It wasn't even her room. It was the couch. Clay and Sheila said that Lacey refused to leave the couch, but they didn't bother to take her to the doctor or call someone to the house to help. Family and friends noticed her absence, but they didn't ask too many questions. Over the years, Lacey's contact with the outside world dwindled to nothing. Friends, family, and even neighbors reported that they hadn't seen Lacey in years. However, Sheila and her husband Clay were often seen out and about. They were attending events and just carrying on with their lives. They were frequent churchgoers as well, and everyone in the community thought they were just as lovely as could be and just praised them.
It's always those ones. It's always the ones. Like, whenever these things happen, it's always he worked at the community center and just loved all the kids.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
And also, like, I want to say, like, what teenage girl is like, I'm never getting off this couch again?
She's 24.
Yeah, she was 24 at this time.
Yes.
But also,
ultimately,
it's still very
but
valid
ultimately,
point,
like,
yes.
even, like, as all this is happening, like, who?
Mm-hmm. I feel it completely. So, Robert, one of Sheila and Clay's neighbors, recalled a conversation from 2017 when he had, like, been outside with Clay one day. He was asking him about the family. Is everything good? Is everything normal? Until he asked about Lacey. He couldn't, like, exactly remember her age at that time and thought she was just off at college because he hadn't seen her for a while. But when he turned the subject to Lacey, Clay just said, "Oh, she's fine. I have to go." And abruptly, like, ended that conversation and just went inside really fast. Which Robert thought was, like, really strange because Clay wasn't normally like that. He usually, like, hung outside and chatted and, yucked it up.
So, like, I get the neighbors not being like, oh, we haven't seen her in a while. And so, like, there's that interaction, that's fine. But, like, family members and stuff not pushing more and, like, all of, like, that's the part that's really weird for me is that, like, if there's someone in the family that no one had seen.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Let's touch on this a little bit because
I
have a lot of personal thoughts on this.
Okay. That's just the one part of this that I just think about every time.
Yes. So, on January 3rd of 2022, police received a call from Sheila Fletcher stating that she believed her 36-year-old daughter was dead on the couch. Emergency responders arrived to the house to find a scene that left them in disbelief. When they first walked up to the home, it was clean, it was bright, but then they walked inside and were smacked in the face with a smell that they would never forget. And it is not the smell of decomp like you might be thinking.
Nope.
No, it was the smell of 12 years worth of urine, feces, and whatever other bodily fluids may have been collecting. The home was filled with a stench so overwhelming that investigators would later describe it as unlike anything they had ever encountered. Lacey's body was found partially submerged in a hole in the leather couch the family owned, and the clothes that she had on were barely covering her body. She was emaciated and covered in ulcers. These ulcers and wounds on her body were so severe that you could see her bones. They said that her body was fused to the leather on the couch. She was covered in urine, feces, and maggots. The cushions were soaked with bodily fluids, mouse droppings, and maggots. The floor was buckled due to the amount of everything that was leaking under the couch.
It's just awful. Like that description.
Just from the start.
Just from the start. We haven't even gotten into it, but that alone is just
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It's the reason why we're doing this, because
Absolutely.
She did not deserve this. But there's one thing that I want to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
That first sentence about the house being clean and bright.
Yep.
This is the weirdest part of this case for me. And I know there's a lot of weird things to this, but this right here. The Fletchers kept their house almost immaculate.
Yeah, almost.
Almost immaculate. Like, sparkling, I mean, like, surfaces were clean, vacuumed, mopped, all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And except for the living room and the couch. And the living room was mostly clean except for around the couch. And Lacey was rotting away. And experts have said, based on the details on information about Lacey's conditions, that the house should have been unbearable to be in. The smell alone.
Mm-hmm.
Even the medical examiner said when he arrived on scene, he didn't understand why everyone outside looked the way they did. He thought, it's a dead girl on a couch.
What's the problem?
Why are we acting like this?
Yeah.
But he said as soon as he opened the door, he knew it was more than just a death. He knew before he even seeing her how bad it was going to be. But your senses are weird. Especially your sense of smell. Your nose can get used to smell after a while and will no longer smell anything. Like when you walk into someone's house and they smoke cigarettes in it, or they have a million animals that they don't care for enough.
Nose blindness.
Yes. And you can smell all the smells because they aren't normal to you, but the person living there doesn't even smell it. And that's exactly what happened here. Sheila and Clay got so used to the smell that they didn't even notice it anymore, and they could go on about their normal life, and they should not have been able to in that house.
The part that I don't really understand either is, like, if smells are that bad, they seep into your clothes.
That was the other thing. Like, how are their clothes not smelling like that? Did they have those rooms like closed off and sealed off from the rest of the house? Like, like their bedroom and their closets. Like, did they have them sealed up? But like, I would think it was kind of an open floor plan. You could see into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so, like, you would have to think that all of that would contaminate.
Yeah.
The house.
I just feel sorry for anyone who may have had a potluck with them and ate the food.
Yeah, that's why we don't do potlucks. So, her autopsy would later reveal that she weighed just 96 pounds. She had COVID at the time, her muscles atrophied, and she was so severely malnourished. So even if she tried to move, she was not able to do it independently. The medical examiner used the term melted when he described how she was on the couch. He said that she had melted into the couch and was basically fused to the leather. As mentioned before, she was covered in her own urine, feces, and other bodily fluid. It was also all up in her hair, just everywhere.
I feel like I put this in here somewhere, but like her hair they never brushed her hair. It was just like a huge
matted
mess.
And the other thing I want to say is with her muscles and the atrophy. She was found with her legs kind of like I am right now, cross-legged, but they were under her. And it wasn't because she was sitting comfortably like some people automatically thought. It was because when your muscles go into that atrophy and they start to shrink and wither
just
away,
curl in.
they curl in
Mm-hmm.
onto you. And so that's what her body was doing. It was curling into itself on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
She was not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And since she hadn't been cleaned or wiped in 12 years, she had serious infections in her lady bits. Mice got under the couch and started eating at her extremities. There were signs that she had been trying to lift herself out of the couch to get away from the mice. And because there were human feces as well as mouse dropping, flies thought it was an ideal place to settle and make home, with a 5-star gourmet fucking restaurant and top-tier birthing center for their babies. All in one area to thrive in.
Do you like that sentence?
I did like that sentence a lot. Maggots were in her matted hair and all of her body, as well as inside her vaginal area, and they even found some in her breasts. She had many open wounds throughout her body, and the maggots were found in there as well. They were eating her from the inside and the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I want to say about this is, if the maggots and the flies would have gone to her body after she died, there would have been presence of just eggs
Mm-hmm.
and larvae.
Mm-hmm.
But there was generations upon generations upon generations upon generations of flies and maggots in her and on her, meaning she was being eaten alive.
Yes, prior to her death.
Prior to her death. For a long time.
And not just by maggots, but from the mice as well.
From the mice, literally eating her.
Wild.
And I need you to really hear when we say she tried to move herself. I need you to remember that as well with the other thing we told you to hold.
Mm-hmm.
This makes me very, very angry.
Yeah.
I am... Okay. Forensic pathologist Dana Troxler said this in the autopsy report. Maggots were present in the perineum and areas of the...
Perineum.
Perineum and areas of the decubitus ulcers.
Mm-hmm.
If the maggots would have appeared after death, they would have been at least a minimal presence of eggs or larvae in the region of her eyes, ears, or nose. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I was just... that just... You know? And these areas, together with any wounds, are the preferred spots for colonization. There was no evidence of decomposition at the time of the autopsy. Therefore, it was determined the maggots were present prior to death. And that's worth saying twice, because that is fucking awful and not okay.
That was just in a more medical professional
term of it. That was me just... She suffered from starvation and many bone infections. They found feces and couch cushioning under her fingernails and in her stomach contents. She was attempting to save herself by eating her surroundings. All of these awful things combined led to many infections, which eventually led to sepsis. Sepsis was determined to be her cause of death. She also had COVID, though.
Yeah.
That wasn't being treated, obviously, because nothing else was being treated.
Also in 22, so who
but
knows
also the
if
fact
she had
that, like,
it before.
COVID didn't kill her.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many other things that should have killed her way before she made it to where she did. And it was determined, sepsis was determined to be her cause of death, and it was determined that Lacey had been dead for 1 to 2 days before Sheila finally called the police. They ruled her manner of death a homicide, citing the cause as severe chronic neglect. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Let's let that sink in for a second. She had been dead 1 or 2 days
Before Sheila called the police. Lacey had essentially been left to rot in her own home, surrounded by the remnants of her once vibrant life that had been cruelly cut short by years of negligence.
The horror of what was discovered sent shockwaves through the community. How could 2 seemingly normal, functioning adults allow their daughter to waste away in such a horrific manner? How could they go about their daily lives while Lacey suffered in silence just feet away? The questions were endless, and the answers were few. As investigators dug deeper into Lacey's case, disturbing details started to emerge about the extent of her parents' neglect. I know one of your biggest questions right now is, how could they not know Lacey was dead for a couple of days before they called the police? Well, they were on vacation. They decided to take a trip for the new year. I don't know where. I can't find out where they went, but they decided to take a trip. They didn't leave any food or anything for her. The investigators said that they would place towels on the couch near Lacey so it was easier to clean up after her. But there was never any wiping or showering or anything. Sheila and Clay went on to say that Lacey was the one that decided to lie on the couch for the past 12 years. They would offer her food and she would just refuse to eat it. They also apparently gave her a potty
By the couch.
by the couch.
For her to use.
Yeah.
The couch that she refused to move from.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it just a bucket?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. The investigation lasted a couple of months it took a while to officially wrap up, and the DA was determined to press charges against them. Then, in early May of 2022, a grand jury indicted Clay and Sheila on second-degree murder.
Fuck yes.
Each of them did bond out, though.
Fuck no.
$300,000 each was their bond.
I think that it came out to they used a bondsman, so they had to do a cash bond, so they put up $72,000 in cash between the two of them to get them both out.
Oh my gosh.
So we have $72,000 readily available in cash, but we can't take our daughter to the doctor.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just checking, making sure we're all together.
Yeah. So then on May 8th, maybe a week later, their defense attorney, Steve Moore, filed a motion to reject the indictment, saying that the DA's office served documents that were different from those filed with the local court clerk. On May 30th, District Judge Catherine Jones tossed the second-degree murder indictments against the surviving Fletchers due to the defective language in those charging documents. So everything got dismissed.
I'm going to need Brenda to not fuck up again.
What?
Brenda. I don't know if her name was Brenda. I'm calling her Brenda. I'm going to need Brenda to not fuck up again with charging documents. Wordage.
Got it. Okay. I was like, who's Brenda?
I was like, I don't know if that's her name, but she sounds like a Brenda.
All right. So then, on June 19th of 2023, the original trial date for Clay and Sheila, they were re-indicted of murder by a grand jury.
Woot woot.
Mm-hmm. West Felician Parish District Attorney Sam DeAkia, I think I said that right.
I think you said that right.
Sam DeAkia said that the new indictments would nix the language from the cruelty to the infirm law. He also predicted the process would go much quicker now, quote, because the defense had previously been apprised of all of the state's information in the case. They were quickly rearrested
woot woot.
And made bond again.
Aww.
This time it was $250K each.
I don't know why their bond went down.
I don't know. Probably because it had been a while and they bonded out before. So, whatever.
They were pillars of the community.
They're churchgoers.
They're wholesome folk.
They were members of our local church.
They're good people.
Yeah. This case was so horrific. The Diakia told WBRZ, which was a local news station. The coroner and the sheriff's office initially investigated this case in January, and the condition she found in was just unbelievable. You don't treat anybody or animals like that, he went on to say. Trial was then set to start in the fall of 2023.
In court for a hearing, the prosecution painted a grim picture of Lacey's final years, describing how she was left to wither away on a couch, ignored and untreated. They were aiming to get 40 years to life for the Fletchers. Defense attorneys argued that Lacey's parents were overwhelmed by her mental and physical health needs, suggesting that they were unprepared and ill-equipped to care for her. Now, I'm going to read this next part from their attorney directly, because, well, let's rage together, okay? Let's rage. They were negligent, yes. It is clear they were negligent. They loved her to death. That is the true statement with the Fletchers. They loved their daughter to death. defense attorney Stephen Moore said during the hearing. When you look back at it, you wonder why. How could this happen? It did happen. But at no point did Sheila or Clay Fletcher ever have a single intent to harm their daughter. They love their daughter to a fault. They are completely remorseful. Their life revolved around Lacey Fletcher. They live for Lacey Fletcher. Anyone with handicapped children can tell you those things can happen. This is an extreme example of how that happens. They have taken responsibility. Now they look back and they can't believe they got to the position they're in. They are good people who have never been in trouble in their life. They are great members of this community. People came to support them because that is not who they are. They are not criminals. They are on bond because they're not a danger to anybody in this community. They have never been in danger to the community. The things that happened to Lacey are horrible, but they cared for her daily. Sheila Fletcher would come home at lunch every day to care and eat lunch with her daughter every single day. End quote. Bitch didn't even give her a McDonald's chicken nugget on that lunch break. Couldn't have even handed her over a fucking Mickey D's French fry. We couldn't have even slid a little packet of gummies over there. Not even a little veggie straw.
So here's the thing. I can buy being overwhelmed and not sure what to do for the first, few days, couple of weeks maybe.
6 months maybe.
I'll give him
Fucking
months.
years.
I'll give him a month or two of the kid not leaving the couch. But
Sure.
once we're not going to the bathroom, no.
12 fucking years.
They just loved her to death. That's all they're guilty of.
They
ignored
their
her to
lives
death.
for her.
Oh my god.
Their lives surrounded Lacey.
However,
Mm-hmm.
this argument did little to sway public opinion, which was overwhelmingly in favor of holding the Fletchers accountable for what many saw as an inexcusable failure to provide even the most basic care. But, and I want to add, as up until everything came out in trial, the community was backing the Fletchers.
Yes, they were.
They were such good people. They could never have done anything like this. They go to church and they do everything, and we've seen them, and they do this and that, and there's no way they could have done this. And then those pictures came out.
Yep.
And
I don't think we put it in here about who released those pictures.
Do we want to wait or say it now? Because I don't think we have it in here.
I don't think we have it in. I didn't put it in.
So,
no,
ultimately, because of how the community was still trying to back the parents and Sheila and Clay, and they didn't do anything, the medical examiner, who was just so scarred by this, he said that he has seen a lot of things, but that is the worst, and it is still traumatizing to him. He decided that everyone needed to see those pictures because he knew that once people saw what they did to her, there's no way anybody could back them anymore and or agree to any of this. And so that's why we do have the pictures we have.
So there was also a quote, not only from the medical examiner, but the coroner as well, that said they couldn't eat or sleep for at least a week after they found Lacey.
This poor medical examiner.
Yeah. You don't realize what medical examiners and coroners and doctors that do autopsies fucking go through.
And for him to be like, that messed me up for a whole week, and he came on scene going, it's just dead girl on a couch. How bad can it be in there? So homeboy's seen some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisiana, we got alligator, we got everything down there.
The gators.
But
so he's the one that released everything.
Yes.
Because he knew the public needed to know.
Because he just needed everyone to know and have the Fletchers be accountable for what many saw as an inexcusable failure to provide even the most basic care.
And honestly, that's when the case took...
That's when we found out about it.
Was when we saw that.
Those pictures. I saw those pictures. I was like, oh my God. And I instantly started digging because I was like,
Same.
I have to know everything about this poor girl. Like, how did this happen? And Lacey never got a chance to say anything.
No.
She never had a chance. This is why we're talking about this. It's horrible, but she deserves a voice.
Absolutely.
There's continuing.
We're gonna proceed on. So
just angry.
Oh, very much so. So, on February 6th, 2024, the Fletchers decided to plead no contest in exchange for a lesser charge. So instead of second-degree murder, they got manslaughter, and they were sentenced to 20 years each.
Which, they're in their 60s.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds low for what we're talking about, but sometimes you have to remember how old people are. And so
Yeah.
it just takes into account that they're going to, like, basically spend the rest of their life in jail.
Pretty much. The impact of Lacey's death rippled throughout the small town of Slaughter, leaving a community grappling with disbelief, anger, and guilt. How could no one have noticed? How had Lacey slipped through the cracks, unseen and unheard of, for so long? Neighbors, friends, and former classmates expressed their sorrow and outrage, questioning how something so horrific could happen right underneath their noses. However, many people in the community continue to support Sheila and Clay and do not believe they did anything wrong.
I am rolling my eyes so hard they're going to get stuck in the back of my head right now.
Go get your vision checked.
I did. See my new glasses? They're cute.
Experts have since weighed in on the broader implications of the case, highlighting the importance of mental health support and the need for better systems to prevent such tragedies. Lacey's story serves as a sobering reminder of the consequences of isolation, untreated mental illness, and the critical need for intervention when signs of neglect are apparent.
Yeah, I still can't believe nobody stepped in anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that part's just the craziest to me. And I think it is because she was so involved in, like, the police and clerk system and, like, the other stuff that, like,
Things got swept under.
I would probably be willing to bet that everybody is hearing all these stories about Lacey and everything else, and they have this whole pretend life that they're projecting.
That's what I'm.
Or
that's what
she's
I'm
away
thinking.
at college, or she moved to another, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and one of their vacation, you know? So where there's no pictures, but
It's just.
it's so weird how just no one noticed. She was, I mean, obviously a neighbor noticed she missed family and friends, but
No.
not enough to
The
pry.
thing is also, like, so I used to go to church a lot with my grandma when I was little, and church people just stop by. Like, after
They
church,
do.
they just come by, and no one ever came by their house. No one ever stopped by. No one ever smelt anything. Like, I just don't understand.
I forgot about the church people. They always stop by.
They do. They always come by. But maybe because it's such a small town, maybe they don't do that in small ass towns.
Yeah, or maybe they just like project. No, they do that shit in small towns. Are you kidding me?
I have no idea.
Listen, when I go back to West Virginia, I'm like, I look at Mike and I'm all, listen, we are going in Walmart. We are getting out of Walmart as quickly as we can because I don't want to stop and talk to people that I can't remember their names.
That's fair.
Because they know me and I don't know them.
Okay, hear me out here also. Like, with how small of this specific town is, and what I do know about small towns is that everyone knows everyone's fucking business.
Yeah, I don't know how this slipped through.
How did they not know?
I don't know. That's crazy.
Years, over a decade long.
The only thing I can think of is if they told everybody that Lacey didn't live there anymore. She moved off for college or did something else. I don't know.
Well, also kind of keep in mind that she was isolated well before she started to stay on the couch.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
She didn't have friends growing up. She was,
and we don't really actually know what led to her sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
We don't actually know. We just have what they tell us, which is a great segue into this next part.
I just don't get it.
No, I don't get it either.
I don't get it.
So one of the medical conditions that got thrown out early in this episode was the locked-in syndrome. And I want to touch on that because that is one of the things that Lacey's parents claimed she had. And there's a lot of things out there. It's very hard for us to tell you exactly what she had because her parents are the ones who say a lot of it and claim a lot of it, and they all come from them, not from an actual diagnosis. And so there's a lot of people who say she had locked-in syndrome and that her parents weren't at fault. So I want to go over that. And what is locked-in syndrome? And is it what happened? Locked-in syndrome is a rare disorder of the nervous system. And we went over that. People are paralyzed in all their muscles. They can usually only move their eyes. They're conscious. They can think, they can hear, they can do all that. They just can't move. And a lot of the time, people don't know people with locked-in syndrome are awakened in there. There's an incident of a guy who got out of locked-in syndrome, and he was in it for like, it was like 5 or 6 years. And he came out of it and he told his mom, I could hear everything you said about me, even on the days that like you weren't really nice about it. Like, there's another one who, same thing, like they are hearing everything and people don't know. Like, doctors can't tell. Like, it's so hard to figure out and diagnose.
Mm-hmm.
So how rare is it though? It is so rare that no prevalence studies have been published. A study published in 1986 identified 139 cases, and a recent one in 2023 that was based out of Norway reported 16 cases of people living with locked-in syndrome in a population of approximately 5.4 million. So this is like in that particular small 5 million people, it would be about 1 in 339,000. So it's very rare,
Mm-hmm.
but, and it is caused, and how is it caused? It's caused by a lesion affecting ventral pons in your midbrain. So it includes vascular lesions, masses, infections, or traumas. And any of those causing trauma to your vascular, and you can hemorrhage and stroke, and that can cause you to have a locked-in syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rare. There's people who they say they are vegetables and all of that, and
Yeah.
they had locked-in syndrome. But luckily for some of those people, their parents are like, no, they're in there. I know they're in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they, it's very rare for someone to come out. It's about a 10-year life expectancy when you do have locked-in syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do come out of it, you will never be a full normal human again. You will not regain all of your body function because
Especially if it's been for 10 years. Your muscles are going to atrophy.
your muscles,
so
yes, as your
fast.
muscles start to die and go off and stuff like that. So,
Your muscles can start to atrophy within weeks.
yes. So, it's not believed that Lacey had locked-in syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Medical examiner, doctors, a lot of things say she didn't. One of the biggest parts of it is her trying to lift herself out of that couch. If Lacey had
Yep.
locked-in syndrome, she would not have been able to lift herself out of that couch.
Yep.
Even if she did have locked-in syndrome for many of those years and came out of it,
Mm-hmm.
her muscles and her body would not have been able to function in a way for her to do that.
Yep.
Which means if she tried to lift herself out of that couch and her legs were atrophied, her arms were still moving. She was still moving her arms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not locked-in syndrome at all.
Yeah. And since she had stuff under her nails, that means she had mobility of her hands
Mm-hmm.
and was scratching, clawing, probably pulling stuff
And if she's
towards her
eating
mouth.
and stuff is getting in her stomach, she's eating, you have to move your mouth. You have to do that. Locked-in syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
you're only moving your eyes. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
You can blink and you can look around. That's all your movement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I fully believe she did not have locked-in syndrome.
I don't either.
Just because of that. And if for any reason she did have locked-in syndrome, you think her parents would have gave more of a shit?
Her parents wouldn't have known she had locked-in syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been something they looked at afterwards, or somebody said to them afterwards, and then they were
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, that's what
That's
it was.
definitely what she had. But still, like, the fact that you just didn't take care of your fucking kid.
No.
But you loved her to death, clearly. Be so fucking for real right now.
Yeah, I just, the attorney saying that they loved her to death. They did. They loved her
Literally.
as they killed her to death. Like, they
Literally.
literally loved her till she died in a way of
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
yes, the words you're saying are true, but not in that sense.
Not in the way that you're meaning it
No,
to, buddy.
and it's just the fact that they still don't think they did anything wrong is mind-blowing to me.
Absolutely. So, Lacey's story is one of unimaginable sorrow, a bright light dimmed by neglect, and a family dynamic that failed to save her in every conceivable way. While we technically got justice for Lacey, I hope the haunting legacy of her suffering will linger long after they get out of jail and go back to life. If they get out of jail and go back to life alive.
Yes.
Not saying that as a threat, but just because
But they're going to be old.
Yes. Lacey's name will be remembered, not just as a victim of neglect, but as a symbol of a broken system that must do better for those who cannot speak for themselves. Thank
Yes.
you. Oh,
No,
yeah.
just yes. Like,
Yeah.
we're doing this so Lacey's name is not forgotten.
Yes.
Because Lacey did not get a chance to be Lacey. So we have to be Lacey's voice and get that out there.
Absolutely.
And so that, one of you listening and you haven't heard from that cousin in about 8 years and their mama keeps telling you that they're over here, over there, I'm going to need you to go check on their mama's couch.
Reach out to people.
Yeah, like,
they probably need it.
Yeah, because obviously everyone thought everything was fine. We got to be a big village.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Justice For. If you or someone you know is experiencing neglect or abuse, please reach out to your local authorities or a trusted organization. No one should ever have to suffer in silence, and there is help out there.
Yeah.
So,
we have a lot of resources on our justiceforpodcast.com website. And there's a lot of help out there.
There is. Absolutely. If you enjoyed today's episode,
we know it was rough.
Sure. It was rough. It was probably the shortest episode we've ever
Probably
done.
one of our shortest episodes we've ever done, but like, we ruined your appetite enough with it. We didn't need to make it long.
Yep. And now we're going to go eat lunch.
Yeah. Lunch came in the middle and we're like, we should probably wait to finish this episode before we eat.
Yeah. But thank you guys again. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go and subscribe, follow us, everything, everywhere. Leave us some comments, leave us some reviews.
We love to hear from your beautiful faces. We do.
And it's always free to do that.
It is. It's free $99 to hit that little plus button.
Make our days, please. So, that's all we got for you guys today. Have a lovely day. Stop killing each other.
Be safe.
All that jazz. We love you guys. Okay.
Bye.